Hello everyone, I'm here to bring you a Tree of Savior video, and this time I'm going to be displaying what I like to call my Diablo 3 Witch Doctor build. And this is because it shares a lot of similarities to the Witch Doctor from Diablo 3 in its playstyle. It's focused on both astral body, explosion, out of body, and zombify, which means it's going to have an emphasis on Sadhu and Bokor. And that might sound strange to some people who have played cleric in Tree of Savior so far, but I want to go over the build real quick and kind of demonstrate a lot of the synergy that these two classes share with each other. To start, this build is focused on int. A lot of people say don't build int because the scaling is only 1 min and 1 max for 1 point of damage, 1 point of int. I still say do it anyway. It makes a huge difference, and I'll show you how much of a difference it makes when we demonstrate the build. By the way, we're going to be doing this in Demon Prison 2, so it might be crowded. Just bear with me. There's nothing I can do about that. I put about, I think, 40 points in con. You're going to need this if you're solo. You're going to need this if you really want to do anything. Being squishy is not fun. Getting hit and dying when you get hit is not fun. So just put the points in con. And I put some points in spirit also. You're going to notice I never really run out of spirit, but I do it anyway. And I do it because a lot of the skills I chose scale off of spirit. The spirit regen helps, and it's good for using Tet. And you're going to be using Tet very often for grouping mobs, pulling aggro, diverting attention off yourself, controlling your zombies. It's just useful to have the extra spirit. As far as the circles go, Cleric 2, emphasis on heal and cure. These are huge damage dealers. You can kill bosses in under 2 minutes by just dropping a cure and a heal on them. Safety zone is mandatory for Sadhus. I didn't get deep protected zone, mostly because I'm not doing physical type damage, and I play solo a lot, so I'm not really going to be reducing defense that much. Also, that's covered because I went Priest 1 by Monstrance. And the debuff, the physical debuff, does help your zombies do a bit more damage, but it's just not important to put skill points in. I only did 1 level of Divine Might. This is mostly because I don't use Divine Might for the buff. I got the attribute to do devil type damage, which means you can use Divine Might to pull aggro in a big AoE, kind of like a Peltastus swashbuckling. And I got Fade, and only 1 point in Fade. This is because you don't really need more than 1 point in Fade, since you're going to be alternating Safety Zone and Fade, and if you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of monster density, you're not going to be standing still that much, even as a Sadhu. You're going to be going, throwing out your body, killing something, pulling your body back in, moving to the next area, and so on. I went 1 circle in Priest. People say, you know, don't get Priest because Blessing doesn't apply to out-of-body attacks. And that's true. But you have to keep in mind, you're not in out of body with 100% uptime. And you're going to want your other attacks, you know, your heal, which hits twice per square, and your cure, which hits 28 times, to do more damage. So you don't have to be reliant on running around in circles until you can either fade or safety zone again. So say, for instance, I have Blessing 5 out of 5 with a level 50 attribute, which is maxed out. So each hit does an additional 131 damage. And imagine 131 times 28. That's all the additional damage that you're getting for free out of each cast of Cure. And so on with Heal. Monstrance is mostly for using the circles, the ground buff, to buff your out of body, but the physical damage debuff also helps your zombies do more damage. Aspersion's overall useful for the physical defense buff, and as I guess a nuke against devil types. And blessing is blessing. I went Bokor C2. Mostly because I wanted to see what Bois Caiman did when you're in out of body. And disappointingly enough, it does not follow your astral body. So when you use it, it'll follow your normal body, which isn't moving, which means they'll just form a conga line behind you and do nothing. So if you do decide to still go Bokor 2, put all your points in Hexing, Zombify, and Sang de Vive. You're not going to be using Effigy, actually. A lot of people go Bokor for Effigy because it does do a lot of damage, but your out-of-body attacks do more damage, and you can't use them both at the same time. So you're not going to need this, and you're just not going to use this at all for any reason. Focus on Hexing. My Hexing right now is 5 out of 5, which means... I'll demonstrate this in a bit, but each attack will do 44 additional magic damage because of the way damage works in this game. Minus 44 magic defense means plus 44 magic damage. And since each auto attack hits 3 times, you take the number that is being subtracted and multiply it by 3. And that's how much additional DPS you're getting per second. So Hexing, when you go Bokor, is pretty much the blessing for your out-of-body auto attacks. And you're going to want this skill as high as possible. Zombies are zombies. We know right now that there's some problems with the AI, but you can get past that. The important part about summoning zombies, besides them taking aggro and pulling aggro, is to use Tet. And I'll show you how useful Tet is in a bit. That's the important aspects of the build. I'll show you my items at the end of this video, but let's just run over and see what we can do. Hopefully there's not too many people here. The good thing about Sadhu is it's a really, really strong PvE class, and you can command entire areas using Sadhu. You can even, a solo Sadhu can chaos an entire party, and you might be like, you might think, oh, you know, you shouldn't be chaosing people, that's so bad. But when you're grinding 25 levels, you really don't want someone running in and taking all of your mobs, if you can avoid that happening. So once we find an area that's clear enough, we will get on with it. Alright, so we finally found an area. And here we are. So to start, go up the safety zone. We're gonna need zombies. So let's also throw a blessing to the damage. You kill some people in your circle, you get some zombies. Oh, by the way, when you spawn zombies, everything's going to be attracted to the circle. So you might want to be careful. You don't want to stand directly in the center of the circle. It could get you killed if you're fighting Pondels, for example. You don't want that to happen. So, even though we have a bit of a messy start, we'll be okay. And in some instances, throwing the Tet might be enough. Like, if you just throw enough of these Tets, along with fading properly, to drop aggro from yourself, you'll really be in a good spot. You'll be in a very, very good spot. So let's fade. Let's throw some Tets. Usually you don't want to double up on fade and safety zone, but I didn't prep this area very well. So there's a lot of dangerous stuff here. So you're going to do that. In between, you're going to keep your blessing active. You're going to drop here and kite around the cure for when the mobs care that you're there. You're going to drop heals. And you're going to... You're going to fade again, I guess. And also you have to make sure your zombies stay up. Normally it's not an issue. keeping your zombies alive and active in order to maintain momentum on this build. I prefer the opposite side of the map with the spiders. The spiders are a lot easier for Sadhus to fight because they do less damage and they're a bit slower than the Nukas and the elite mobs that are here. But either way, when the game's not lagging, you'll be fine to continue about your business. And you'll be fine DPSing all of the mobs in the map, really. So, safety zone. Clear this area out with the explosion. Let's get my zombies back. Anything that... This is why Fade's really, really useful. Anything that hits very fast, like Hondels or Pantos, the Pathfinder Pantos, they're going to cancel your safety zone pretty much as fast as you put it up, no matter how high of a level your safety zone is. So you're really going to want another way to distract the mobs from attacking you, so you can go ahead and DPS them all down. And the way to do that is by just fading out. But now that we're safe again, let's see if we can get the astral body up, do some damage. The main thing about using Sadhu is it does take a lot of prep time. And if you don't prep properly, you can get in a lot of danger. But once you're prepped, you're usually pretty good to go. Once you have your rotation down, you shouldn't really be concerned about anything, really. And for areas like this, if you're not going to be using your heal offensively, I suggest getting the attributes where enemies don't consume it, so you don't find yourself at 500 HP and your heal's doing damage rather than what you want it to be doing. But you're also going to want to make sure that your zombies are not near your heal or your cure, because they will consume hits on your heal and your cure. You do not want them to do that, so using Tet wisely is always a good choice. If your zombies reach your Tet, they will make the skull disappear. So you might want to throw a Tet towards where you want to hit the enemies, and then throw another Tet back to where the zombies are already standing. And with every new Tet, it redirects the zombie AI. So there won't be any risk for the zombies going where you have placed your Tet skulls. So you throw the Tet, you throw one back, you throw another Tet, you throw another one back, and then you can get on with the actual DPSing. Unfortunately, this part of the map has a lot of the Haru Gulls, or whatever they're called, which consume your safety zone pretty quickly. For the record, second isolation area, that's where I grinded out all my levels. That's where you're going to want to be, not the first one. The second one spawns a lot less of the elites, which means you're in a lot less danger. And I've pre-recorded another video of part of my leveling process to 175, and that'll show you the efficiency of the build when you're not under so much pressure from elites. Tet. Tet. Go tet. Go tet. Fade. Go tet. Go tet. Okay. Need more zombies. Feels really good for killing enemies, even non-demon enemies. It's really good for just getting your zombies up quickly when you need them. Go tet. Go tet. And you're going to be rotating your skills a lot similarly to this, as well as keeping your blessing up for your cure damage. And you're going to try to do the opposite of what I just did, which is not use your cure on top of your zombies, because it's really just a waste of the cooldown. Anytime you see a whole bunch of people come in, just throw up the astral body explosion. Always do that under your safety zone, because if you get hit, it will cancel your astral body explosion, and it'll go directly on a 30-second cooldown. It's actually kind of convenient. Let's be real and talk about chaosing for a moment. It's actually pretty convenient when other people do come in and try to chaos you, because that gives you a lot of time to set up. And once you're set up, you can push out your damage the way Sadhus are meant to push out their damage. There's a lot of ways to do this yourself, but it really just doesn't compare to having meat shields. And that's the benefit of all of your zombies. Your zombies are really good at pulling aggro, even with their awful AI. As you can see, if you're attacking enemies that are focused on your tet, you will not pull aggro for hitting them with your out-of-body, which is the main benefit when there's not 100 mobs on your screen of keeping the tet up. It's so you can fight an enemy without the enemy fighting you back. Right now on buffed, my hits are doing 618 each, which is about 1.8k total. Buffed, they're doing about 1,000 each, which is about 3,000 damage. So you're going to be clearing very fast. And when the zombies are pulling aggro, you could do it without even having safety zone or fade up, which I don't have either up right now. When things get more dangerous, you fade, you throw the tets. I usually like to make a cross or just some kind of pattern around the spawn points. So once enemies drop down to spawn, I'm not in any danger. Tets are also good for throwing up the explosion. You have a huge mob of enemies that won't fight you. And like once you're set up, if you manage to clear out all the enemies that were there before you got there, you're safe. And you can just keep this rotation going until you're done leveling, pretty much. Since the spawn rates are still high, which means you're still getting a constant flow of mobs, but you're not completely swamped, you'll easily be able to fully sustain yourself at full HP, full SP, and a constant rate of experience, completely solo. That's kind of how this Witch Doctor build is supposed to work. Your zombies are really carrying you, and you're just assisting them at doing what it is you need to be doing. Yeah, that was my mistake. I tried to throw the explosion out before putting up the safety zone. It works sometimes, but it's just best to not waste your cooldown. Those Astral Body Explosion is actually a really good nuke. And against enemies with lower HP, you can actually use it to overkill to level even faster. So you really don't want to waste your Astral Body Explosion when you don't have to. And by waste, I mean have it put on cooldown without actually getting any value out of it. I would say, I mean, I just did it, but I would say don't even use it when you're faded, because when you're faded, you can still take damage. If you take damage, it still gets cancelled. So use your Astral Body Explosion when you have Safety Zone up. And also be aware, sometimes if you use Astral Body Explosion under a Safety Zone, I don't know if this is a glitch or not, but sometimes when you do that, it will move your positioning of your body, so you are no longer under Safety Zone even if you're standing on the tile. It didn't happen there, but sometimes you'll have to reposition after using the explosion, so just be mindful of that. But this is more or less how the build works. If your cure is down, use Monstrance. If your Monstrance is down, use cure. Buff yourself, let the zombies take the aggro, kill the enemies in 1 to 2 hits. Even at, I'm level 177 right now, even at a lower level you can do this if you itemize properly. You can still do similar damage to what I'm doing now. With a Arch Rod, a decent Arch Rod, and some blue gems, you can do about this much damage. This is what you're going to want to do. Under situations with less mob density, you're really unstoppable. There's nothing that can, not even bosses, there's nothing that can stop you from putting out as much damage as you want to, from a safe distance even. You can tell I don't have any potions hotkeyed. That's because as a cleric, and especially as a Sadhu who's doing a lot of auto attacks, and a Bokor whose skills are not, when you're not using effigy, the skills aren't focused on spamming, I don't use SP a lot, and I don't run out of SP. So, if being frugal is something you desire, this is definitely a good build for that, because you're not going to be spending thousands on potions. You're not going to have to find an alchemist to make you special potions. You're going to be able to sustain yourself completely fine. That's enough for demonstrating how the build works, and I'll close this video out by showing you kind of the gear that I'm using on this build. Alright, so now that we're in a safe spot, I'm just going to go over my gear really quick, and I'll let you guys go along your way. Thank you for watching preemptively, I guess. I'm running the Rokus robe. I found no need to ever upgrade it all the way back from when I first got it. The int's really good for the extra damage. It's good for the extra damage on your cure. The SP is useful early game. It doesn't mean much anymore, but at the time it was still pretty good. And the magic defense is very valuable because later on in the game, enemies that use magic hit very, very hard. You're going to want any point of magic defense that you can possibly get. Protus trousers for the extra spirit. The spirit stats helps for scaling of your skills. It's much more useful than the actual SP. You want the spirit and not the SP. And once again, magic defense. I'm running ignition. I will have to do more testing about whether ignition is worth it or not, but for the time this is the rod that I'm running. I'll get back to you guys, maybe with another video about ignition and what it does. Crystal Bangle, max attack evasion, Ard Dagger, an awakened Ard Dagger. All of the extra magic attack and fire attack applies to every hit of every auto attack. So that 153 applies to each of the 3 hits of each attack. You're really going to want an Ard. There's no reason not to use an Ard. Right now, in the International Beta 2, they're pretty expensive. Just save up and get one. Zachariah Bengal. Skirmisher boots for the evasion. You can get a lot of evasion just off of your gear. And I believe if you put green gems in your boots, that also gives you evasion. You can roast the gems so you don't lose SP recovery. So you can get a lot of evasion just through your gear alone. I don't stat dex at all. And the magic talisman for the extra int, for the extra spirit, and for damage, spirit for skill scaling. And that's all I really have for you guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you try this build out. Bokor C1 is really good. C2 only for the extra hexing, maybe for the flag for extra zombie HP, because the Bois Caiman is really disappointing with the way Sadhu works. So definitely useful for hexing. Thumbs up. If I were to do this build again, instead I would choose Pardoner for the extra duration of debuffs. So when you throw a hexing on a mob, you can debuff them to make the hexing last even longer. And then you can throw out your Sadhu auto attacks. And that would be useful for bosses, let's say, or field bosses, where you're going to want the extra damage for as long as possible. Anyway, that's enough of this. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, then hit the like button, subscribe. If not, I'm surprised you stuck around so long. Anyways, that's all. Take care, guys. Bye.